Hi guys, hope you're all okay. This is Sheena. I just want to quickly take you through your coursework research tasks for the next week or so. Now, a few of you will already have done this research with me in your last lesson. I'll just need you to go back over that research just to remember really what you did. And for the rest of us, you'll need to start this from scratch. So what we would like you to do, just in this time, while obviously we can't teach you physically, is to create a research PowerPoint demonstrating your understanding of the four theoretical framework areas and applying them to your chosen brief. So for each of the coursework briefs, you have to demonstrate an understanding and knowledge of media languages, so that's sound, editing, camera work, mise-en-scène, representation, audience, and industry. If you've not already chosen your brief, make sure you read both briefs carefully. They are up on the Google Classroom. They're in this post. There are two briefs, magazine and film marketing. For the magazine, you are creating the front cover, a double-page spread, and an advertorial for a new original magazine. It must be produced by a major conglomerate publisher, so we're talking Bauer, Hearst, Condé Nast, possibly Hachette as well. And then you need to create either a website with 30 seconds of video or a YouTube video or a podcast, which is 2 minutes to 2 minutes 30. Personally, I would say that the YouTube video podcast option is going to be easier because there are fewer skills to learn. You're just learning how to record and edit, whereas with the website, you're also learning how to code and that kind of stuff. And in the time that we're going to have, I think it would make more sense to do the things that are going to get you the most marks. That's just my advice. If you really want to do web design, then obviously I will support you with that. The film brief then is to create a new original film for either BBC Films or Film 4. So you are given your producers for this brief, and you need to construct either a DVD or a Blu-ray cover with a teaser poster, which gives enigma, and a theatrical poster, which gives all of the characters and more of the context. And then with that, you will need to create either a YouTube video or a podcast, which is 2 minutes to 2 minutes 30 seconds long. Now, for the film marketing brief, it is just that, film marketing. So you're not allowed to create a trailer or any part of the film. You are allowed to create interviews with the director, with the producer, with the actors. You're allowed to do possibly behind the scenes. You'll need to read into more detail with the brief to see exactly what you can construct for the task B on that, because it's quite specific in terms of what you have to do. Moving on from that, again here on this slide, you'll just see what you have to complete. So the front cover, double page spread, and then a tutorial with either a website, a podcast, or a YouTube video for the magazine. And then for the film, you have to construct a DVD cover, a teaser, and a theatrical poster with either a podcast or a YouTube video. I'm going to knock out website for that. Again, unless you really, really want to construct it, then as I said before, we will support you. You also have to give evidence if you're planning and write a 550-word statement of aims outlining your research and planning. So this is kind of what we're building towards now. And again, for those of you that had a last lesson with me, this is what we started to work towards in that last lesson. Now, you have 4 examples of these in your coursework booklet, along with the briefs for this year. You can see what an A grade statement of aims should look like. But for everything that's in this PowerPoint and everything that's going to be in the next pieces of work, we're helping you build all of the research that you need to construct a really strong statement of aims and then really strong creative pieces once we get back to college. The more thorough your planning is at this stage, the better your mark is going to be in the meantime. And it's also worth bearing in mind that although you are at a disadvantage because we have this huge break, you are also not any different to every other 16, 17, 18-year-old in the country. So you are still required to compete with those other students up and down the country for those marks. So your work needs to be of as high a standard as possible. We are saying that students that don't engage with the work set or communicate with their tutor risk falling behind the rest of their class. Most of you now have completed the work that was set or communicated with me, or I've heard from a parent, so that's absolutely excellent. as we always say, if you don't talk to us, we can't help you. So just make sure you are communicating as frequently as you need to, and that we are as up to date on your situation as we can be, so that when we come back, we'll know what work we have to do together in order to get you to the same stage as the rest of the course. If you can't work in Google Classroom, you can create a Word document and send me PDFs and JPEGs. If you do a big PowerPoint, it's also possible to click Save As. And then if you choose JPEGs, it will ask if you want to save every slide, click Yes, and then you can send that to me as a zip file. So I'll be able to then see your research as well. Once you've done all your research and submitted it to me, it'll take me a couple of weeks to go through it, and I will be doing kind of like this audio feedback. So I'll be going through your PowerPoint with you and talking you through kind of what changes you could do with making, where you need to give a bit more information, where your planning needs to be a bit more detailed. Once you've read the brief, I need you to answer these questions for me. And again, you can do this in the PowerPoint or you can do it in a Word document. It's up to you. Who is the audience for your brief? Does the brief require you to produce content for a mainstream conglomerate or a niche company? How many original images do you need for your brief? If you're making a magazine, what kind of product will you create for your advertorial? So that's based on your genre. So if you're doing something like a men's magazine, you might decide to do something for an aftershave or a watch or a car or a pair of shoes. You just need to let me know what that is. If you're making the marketing for a film, what kind of genre and narrative will you construct? And then how will you represent your star? So this is just basically basic ideas at the moment. And then once your research starts to come together, I'll be able to see your ideas crystallizing and we'll be able to talk it through together. And by the time you come back, you'll have a really, really strong requirement or a really strong kind of brief that you want to follow for your own work. We're going to do audience and industry research this week. So for your coursework, if you're doing magazines, you'll see underneath this post or in this post, you'll see links to 5 or 6 different media kits for different conglomerate magazines. And I've also posted the links for BBC Films and Film 4. Create a mind map once you've had a look through the media kits or the film websites. For film, it says an 18 to 35 audience. It's really important to understand that 18 to 35-year-olds don't normally want to watch films like I, Daniel Blake. So even though the brief or the information from the board says I, Daniel Blake should be a starting point, there are so many other independent films out there that would appeal to a younger audience more. So don't be afraid to deviate a little bit as long as you fulfill that brief. So you need to create a mind map or a bullet point list showing the profile of your audience, giving me your age bracket. So it doesn't have to be 18 to 35, it can be 18 to 24, it can be 13 to 35, it's up to you. The gender or gender identity of your audience. So if you're doing a magazine, you might decide you are constructing a magazine for a mainstream non-binary audience, which is a growing market. You also need to demonstrate the income or the socioeconomic bracket of your audience. So if they're full-time students, they'll be in that D and E bracket. Tell me where in the country they live, so that geodemographic. If they're slightly older, are they homeowners? Are they married? Do they have a family? Again, if they're over that 25-year-old age bracket, what kind of occupation do they have? If they're ABC1, they're going to be things like graphic designers, barristers. And then how do they consume their media? So do they download their magazines digitally? Do they subscribe to the print copies? Do they have a print and digital subscription like you can get with the Times? If it's film, do they stream on Netflix, Amazon, iPlayer? Do they have a cinema membership card, so like the Light card, that kind of thing? You need to give as full an idea of your audience as possible in order for this to work as a piece of media. Your industry research tasks then. So for a magazine brief, we said the producer should be a mainstream conglomerate. For the film brief, you're creating for either Film 4 or BBC Films. So for industry, you need to give me the following research. Industry is across the country where most students lack information. So this is what the examiner is going to be really focusing on you for. Industry tends to be where students fall down. So for magazines, Say if you've looked at GQ, how often is it released? If you're looking at something like Harper's Bazaar, how often is that released? Vogue, etc. Do they have, say, Vogue September issue was released every September and is a 500-page kind of blockbuster of a magazine. It's the most looked forward to release of the year. How are the texts distributed? So are they released both in print and online? So for film posters, they are posted around cinemas and on billboards on the side of the road. They are also published on pages based on your cookies and the links that you visit. And your data is being processed to kind of show you things that you want to see. Are you able to subscribe to any magazines, and how much are the subscription packages as well is really important. So for example, if I'm going to say GQ again, costs $5.99 per issue. If I were to subscribe for 6 months, would I get a better deal than if I bought it month by month? And what benefits does that have for the audience and for the producer? And then, are the films distributed via streaming? Are the magazines and the films promoted on social media? In terms of marketing and promotion, where and how is it advertised? How do the stars promote the film or the magazine? So if Beyonce is on the cover of, say, Vanity Fair, is she going to post pictures from the photo shoot on her Instagram? She did this with her Vogue shoot a couple of years ago, where she was on the cover. It was Edward Enninful's, one of his first issues for British Vogue, and Vogue. Beyonce did a little behind the scenes video as well, behind the scenes of the shoot. So there we have really nice examples of synergy that helps the magazine and the star promote each other. And then, how is a consistent brand identity constructed across different countries and across different platforms? So that's Hesman Halj. He says that creating a consistent brand identity is a way of minimizing risk and maximizing audiences. So that is the advantage of that from a publisher or an industry point of view. And then lastly, regulation. What are the issues for regulation with film? So we've already done this for Black Panther, and we've covered it as well for video games. And how does the producer account for this? So do the producers of BBC Film, for example, sanitize content if they know it's going to be shown on the iPlayer? And also, what regulation issues do magazines need to account for? So you'll need to do a little bit of research there into how print media and magazines in particular are regulated. Okay, so that's basically it for the research I would like you to complete this week. Play this back, pause it, get your notes down, email me anything that you have questions about for this. I would like this submitted to me as PowerPoints, and I'll post the due date up on the Google Classroom when I post this task. Okay. All right.